Jake's morning begins with another dose of weed, but the guy can't manage to light his pipe because of a broken lighter. He turns to his neighbor for help, but the neighbor doesn't open the door, forcing Jake to overcome himself and step outside. Walking through the streets of the city, Jake doesn't immediately notice that there isn't a single living soul around. His first suspicions arise only after he finds two bodies in the park that, judging by their condition, have already started to decay badly. Calling for an ambulance fails. Jake's phone has no signal, not even for emergency calls, so Jake decides to visit his family to check if his loved ones are okay. Unfortunately, there is no good news waiting at his father's house. He discovers the bodies of all his relatives, including his little sister Megan. Jake feels sick, and running back into the street, he tries to wake himself up. He is convinced that all these visions are just the consequences of his prohibited substance use. However, a nearby teenager, Sam, shatters that hope, assuring Jake that everything happening is real. Sam explains to Jake that everyone who was asleep at a specific time died. The only survivors are those who, for some reason, couldn't fall asleep, and in order to stay alive, they must remain awake constantly. To achieve this, the guys use adrenaline injections, which they stab into each other's hearts before jumping into an ice-cold pool. Two attractive girls who somehow also survive join their company. It seems the lucky ones have found the perfect conditions to survive the apocalypse. But how much longer can they keep their bodies awake? After a couple of days, this way of life begins to take its toll. One of the girls starts losing her mind. To distract his younger friend, Jake tries to talk more with Sam, and the two joke that one day they will become sharks and no longer need sleep. The joke lifts their spirits only briefly. The girl who had been talking to herself earlier couldn't hold on and fell asleep. Jake gives her an adrenaline injection, but it's too late. He can't save her. The deceased girl's friend breaks down. Substances and coffee are no longer helping, and she fears falling asleep like Rachel did. To make matters worse, their supply of substances is dwindling, and when it runs out, all three will have to accept their fate. To prevent this, the girl steals a car and drives off with all the remaining substances, dooming Jake and Sam to an imminent end. The guys give chase, but Jake blacks out right behind the wheel. Sam has to take over driving while simultaneously searching for a way to bring his friend back to consciousness. The only thing he finds is a forgotten screwdriver in the glove compartment. Sam stabs it into Jake's leg to wake him up completely. Even a hole in his leg doesn't restore Jake's sanity. He hallucinates that little Megan is driving, and instead of an airplane in the sky, he sees the comet that wiped out the dinosaurs millions of years ago. Sam is forced to chase the traitor on his own, but his plans are thwarted when a plane lands right on the road. However, there's good news. The shock helps Jake. Finally, wake up, Ellis. The owner of the plane is displeased with the unexpected encounter, but he agrees to share the substances he has on hand. In return, he asks to be taken to the city hospital as he needs to check something and replenish his medical supplies. Reaching the hospital, the group splits up. Ellis heads to the ICU, while Jake and Sam search for the pharmacy. However, the guys fail to find anything useful there, so they head upstairs to figure out their next move. To their surprise, the ICU is full of people led by Dr. Ellie. The survivors use IV drips to stay awake and search for answers. Looking through the documents, Ellis checks the time of death for all the patients who died in their sleep. The traveler has already been to 8 cities and managed to determine that the deadly sleep began everywhere with a difference of 1 minute, and it started somewhere near Colorado. Ellis plans to head to the point he believes is the origin. He's confident it's the only way to figure out what happened and try to find a cure. Ellie and her friend decide to go with the man, unwilling to stay in place. Hearing this, Sam also asked Ellis to take them along, despite Jake not sharing his young friend's enthusiasm a few days earlier. Ellie recalls the panic that erupted in the hospital after several patients died. The clinic's head doctor instructed colleagues to contact other hospitals to see how things were going there. Looking out the window, Ellie saw her friend Lex get into a car and leave the medical center grounds without warning anyone about her departure. The group steals the fastest car from the parking lot to get to the next town as quickly as possible. This time, the only anti-sleep aid they have is super hot peppers that Sarah swiped from the hospital. Finally, the navigator leads the travelers to a hospital, but it turns out to be burned down, leaving almost no chance of finding records of patients' times of death. Now the group must head to another town, but none of them are sure that they can handle such a trip without sleep. Jake remembers that there's one more place in this town where they might find the information they need. The morgue located behind the police station. The group finds the location, and to their surprise, a loud party is raging there, packed with people. Getting into the chief examiner's office isn't easy, but Ellis's persuasive tone helps them get rid of the crazy security guard. The only one unwilling to go with the others is Sarah. She asks her colleague to let her join the crowd for a while so she can dance, perhaps for the last time in her life. Jake volunteered to watch over her. He assures Ellie that he won't leave Sarah's side and that they'll return to the others soon. While the pair are having fun, Ellis and Ellie search through the records, but they don't find any times of death noted in the documents. However, Ellie spots a computer, which offers renewed hope that they might find some clues. At first, Jake handles his responsibilities well, but after drinking a glass of some energizing beverage, he begins to hallucinating. The guy sees his little sister Megan in the crowd and runs after her, unaware of what he's doing. Meanwhile, Ellie asks Essie to hack the password, preventing them from accessing the computer. The doctor doesn't realize that her friend has been left unsupervised. Finally, the team finds the data and discovers that the patients in this hospital died at 2 minutes past 4. This means the deadly sleep didn't start here, but slightly earlier, and the group will need to head a few kilometers back. Sarah notices that Jake has disappeared. She pushes her way out of the crowd trying to find him, but Jake is still lost in his hallucinations, talking to his younger sister. Memories of all the family quarrels that followed after Jake's parents divorced resurface in his mind. Ellie does some calculations and pinpoints the exact location where the deadly sleep epidemic began. To understand what caused this catastrophe, the team needs to travel to Dallas, located an hour and a half away. Sam struggles to find his friend and brings him back to his senses. Only then does Jake realizes that he lost Sarah, and when the group finally finds the nurse, it's already too late to help her. The girl fell asleep right in the middle of the dance floor. Ellie flies into a rage over Jake's careless behavior and refuses to take him any further. Ella sides with the doctor, but Sam stands up for Jake. He declares that if his friend doesn't go, he'll stay behind to die with him. The doctor has no choice but to accept Jake and continue the journey. However, their plans change on the road. Ellie intercepts a message from her friend Lex, who invites anyone interested to Austin to get a cure. Ellis refuses to change his route and go with Ellie, but he gives her a radio so they can contact each other later. Jake and Sam decide to go with Ellie. Jake understands that it's his fault the doctor lost her friend, and he wants to stay with her to atone for his mistake. Several days without sleep have affected people differently. Some have completely lost their minds. Someone who was just an ordinary clerk yesterday, he becomes a serial maniac by the 4th day, realizing that only this keeps him awake. Jake takes the wheel, and to stay awake, he and Sam start playing a game of Guess the Movie. However, their conversation is interrupted when a person falls from a bridge onto the windshield, forcing the car off the road from the impact. Ellie begins to black out, and the guys have to pour undiluted alcohol on her face just to keep the doctor conscious while searching the car for water. Sam notices someone standing on the bridge, but he can't make out the figure clearly. He finds a bottle of sparkling water and returns to his friends to help Ellie. The girl's condition worsens due to a concussion. Jake decides to go in search of a new car because getting help in the middle of the road is impossible. Meanwhile, Ellis continues his journey, struggling to stay awake behind the wheel. Several times the car starts swerving, but the man pulls himself together just in time and stops to stretch and listen to recordings of conversations from his past life. These recordings give him strength and help him push forward. Ellie, Jake, and Sam walk several kilometers under the scorching sun, which finally drains their energy. However, when they reach a small town, they hear loud music, giving them hope of finding people they can ask for help. Jake goes ahead to scout, following the sound of the music. He stumbles into a park filled with hanging skulls and people running around in strange, terrifying costumes. When help doesn't arrive, Ellie collapses to the ground, slipping into unconsciousness. The last thing she sees is a figure in a black cloak approaching. Ellie is carried into a strange building surrounded by eerie people. An unfamiliar old woman resembling a witch gives the doctor a potion to drink, and only then does Ellie come to her senses. Opening her eyes, she sees Jake and Sam, who appear completely unafraid of what's happening. It turns out the group has arrived at the Eastside Hospital, which is now run by a local preacher named Julio. The preacher introduces the guests to the teenagers. From his congregation not knowing what the future holds, they decided to celebrate the Day of the Dead, which is why everyone is dressed in strange and eerie costumes. The potion Ellie was given was prepared by the local herbalist, Loya. Thanks to her, the community has managed to stay awake for several days while maintaining their sanity and energy. The preacher gives the guests a tour of his parish and introduces Sam to Carmen, a girl his age. Over the past few days, this has become the most joyful moment for the teenager. While the old woman tends to Ellie, Carmen shows her new friend the most beautiful spots in their parish. She also introduces him to a blind old man who managed to survive along with his guide dog. Suddenly, the dog starts barking, and the old man orders the teenagers to return to safety, but Sam and Carmen don't make it to a safe place. As the boy tells his friend about their search for a cure, a blood-soaked maniac approaches and attacks Carmen in an instant. Sam bravely defends his friend and nearly becomes the psychopath's victim himself. However, Carmen's scream reaches the adults, and the preacher Juan and his helpers come to their rescue. Ellie examines Carmen. The injury is very serious, but the girl must be operated on without anesthesia because she can't be allowed to fall asleep. The doctor gathers her remaining strength and calls Sam to assist her during the operation. Jake, unable to handle the tension, steps outside, promising to guard the entrance, but standing still isn't an option for him. While his friends are saving Carmen, he arms himself with an iron pipe and sets out to find the maniac. The other men also search the area, hoping to locate the criminal and put an end to him. However, some of them become new victims of the psychopath who seeks to get another dose of adrenaline in this twisted way. While Sam distracts Carmen with a game, Ellie stitches up the cut on her arm. Suddenly, the lights go out, and the preacher leaves, promising to start the backup generator. The doctor hopes Padre will fix the issue so she can continue the operation. But then the group hears a gunshot, and Ellie realizes this isn't a malfunction. The maniac cut the power, and now the preacher is in serious danger. Ellie moves Carmen to the altar to continue the operation by candlelight. She keeps talking to the girl, making sure she doesn't fall asleep, but the maniac enters the room, forcing the doctor to shield the teenager with her body. The criminal has a serious wound, and Ellie hopes he will weaken before he can hurt anyone. But it seems the psychopath is undeterred even by this. He lets out an animalistic scream and prepares to attack. Jake arrives just in time to neutralize the maniac. When the preacher and his assistant reach the altar, the danger is over, and Ellie finishes the operation. In gratitude for their help, the preacher gives the guests his car and an entire basket of the potion that will help them stay awake on the road. Ellie offers Juan to come with them, but the preacher admits that a group of his people had already gone out to scout, and none of them ever returned. Carmen asks Sam to stay, but he can't. Abandoning his friends, he promises his new friend that he'll return as soon as they find a cure for the deadly sleep. After saying goodbye to the community, the group sets out on their journey once again, unaware that at the same time, Ellis is reaching a city still illuminated by millions of lights. It looks as though nothing has happened there. Despite all the hardships, there are still those who try to live a normal life. Bill invites his girlfriend Nicole on a date, and the couple visits one of the best coffee shops in the city to enjoy a cup of coffee. But the date doesn't end there. The lovers head to Dallas, stopping at a gas station to fill up the tank. Noticing another living person, Nicole happily waves her hand, but at that moment someone opens fire from the rooftop, and the man drops right in front of the couple. Bill and Nicole hide behind their car, unsure of what to do next. Bill spots someone signaling them with a flashlight, and after counting to 3, the couple runs toward their savior. The sniper continues shooting, but the lovers manage to escape and find themselves in Ellis's hideout. The man admits that he spotted the bodies 2 kilometers outside the city and has been trying to avoid the sniper's line of sight the entire time. Now he's in a safe place along with several other people who have gathered around Ellis in an abandoned garage. Beth, one of the group members, offers Nicole an adrenaline shot. Bill refuses his dose, but no one pays attention. Assuming he's relying on something else, the group asks the newcomers to explain why they've come to Dallas, and Nicole confessed that she wanted to visit the famous bakery before sleep finally claimed her. Nicole's idea doesn't impress Ellis. He tells the newcomers not to focus on an inevitable end and instead join them somewhere in Dallas. The trail goes cold, and if they can find the origin point, they might be able to find a cure. But before searching for that crucial starting point, Ellis decides to visit the sniper, who's been preventing them from moving freely through the city. Ellie's group also arrives at their destination, but something strange happens near the clinic. A group of armed people shoots at an SUV, which speeds off and disappears. Jake suspects they've walked into a trap. Someone is luring people here with messages promising medicine and a safe shelter. Despite the danger, Ellie decides to enter the building to find and save her friend. Jake agrees to go with the doctor, but to protect themselves, he suggests they strip down to prove they are not a threat. Ellis manages to distract the sniper and approach unnoticed. Surprisingly, the shooter turns out to be a young girl named Meredith. She assures the visitors that she didn't mean to hurt anyone. It's just that many in the city have gone insane, and she has taken it upon herself to cleanse the city of crime. The clinic's guards are baffled when they see the group approaching without clothes. They don't ask unnecessary questions and let them inside, but only after Ellie mentions that she knows Lex Ellis arrests Meredith and plans to take her back to the camp. However, while the group is refueling with stimulants, The girl distracts her guards. Seizing the initiative, Meredith lays out her demand. Ellis must take her with the team, and they will work together to figure out where the catastrophe began. Otherwise, she threatens to shoot everyone and continue her game of cleansing the city. Naturally, Ellis chooses the first option, and the group sets off to find point A. Meanwhile, Ellie reunites with Lex. The women are so happy to see each other that Jake starts feeling awkward. But Ellie remembers that she's upset with her friend for leaving without warning. And a family-like argument erupts between the two women, which the guys have to endure. Once gathered, Ellis's group decides to get to know each other better. Everyone shares their story, and the most amusing turns out to be Jeff. The guy came to Dallas for a bird that, for some inexplicable reason, was still alive. Beth's story also turns out to be strange. Someone warned her about the impending tragedy just minutes before it began. She doesn't know the caller, but the number had a Dallas area code, so she came here to find her savior Jeffrey, tries to trace the number, but the internet is down. Bill steps in to help. He uses an old-fashioned phone book and manages to figure out that the call came from a nursing home. The group quickly makes their way to the location. All the residents of the nursing home are dead, and the group has to endure the unpleasant stench lingering in the air. Meredith notices a camera, and the group reviews the footage from that fateful night. However, they can't catch the moment of the call from the anonymous caller. Made sure not to appear on camera. Nevertheless, something catches Bill's attention. He notices that the warning about the impending apocalypse appeared on the screens at the exact moment people started dying. This means the announcement had been pre-recorded. Meredith remembers that there's a TV station not far from the nursing home and suggests they head there to uncover the truth. Bill notices that during their discussion, Nicole has dozed off. He manages to wake her up and inject her with adrenaline, but for the couple, at the end of their mission, they decide to separate from the group and visit the bakery Nicole had dreamed of for so long, pulling out a gun. Meredith points it at Bill. She had noticed that all this time the man hadn't taken any stimulants, yet he never seemed close to falling asleep. Bill admits that he has been sick for months. His condition is chronic insomnia, and he wants to use the illness for good to give his beloved the happiest final hours of her life. At the clinic, Lex introduces the group to a substance they managed to create. It's not a cure yet, but the meds allow a patient to sleep for a short while without dying. The scientists discovered that death occurs during the transition to deep sleep, and they found a way to prevent that. The first test subject is Sam. Lex administers the substances to him, ignoring Jake's protests, and the boy's eyes immediately close, separated from the team. Bill and Nicole walk through the city like an ordinary couple in love. They find the bakery, and Bill breaks the glass to treat his girlfriend to some delicious pastries. After eating their fill of quiche and cakes, the couple heads to a movie theater. Sitting alone in the empty hall, they play a black and white film and prepare to say goodbye. Nicole thanks Bill for the beautiful day, and resting her head on his shoulder, she falls asleep. In his sleep, Sam is tormented by a nightmare. He relives his last conversation with his father. The boy was very close to the old man, and the pain of that loss still haunts him. Lex admits that this is one of the side effects. While it allows a person to sleep briefly, it can't protect them from nightmares. Ellis's group sneaks into the TV station, where they are met by a spotlight and a man's voice threatening to open fire. However, it quickly becomes clear that it's a bluff. Ellis recognizes the voice of the famous news anchor, Alonso Alvarez, and declares that he's not going anywhere. The old man is forced to back down. He switches off the spotlight and steps into view. Jake is also given a syringe with a substance that allows him to sleep, but as soon as he drifts off, his nightmares are filled with the deceased Sarah and little Megan. Lex and Ellie watch over Jake, and right before their eyes, he begins to convulse. His heart stops, and the doctors must work quickly to revive him next. Sam starts to fade, but Lex doesn't manage to resuscitate him. Fortunately, this turns out to be Ellie's nightmare. When the girl wakes up, she sees that her friends are perfectly fine. Ellis interrogates the anchor, but Alonso can't answer the question of who triggered the signal according to the old man. That day he arrived at work later than usual because his wife had died and he had to take care of her. During the conversation, Ellis realizes that Alonso has gone mad. The old man refuses to leave the studio even though all his viewers have long been dead. The anchor won't even acknowledge the obvious. His team is also gone, and there's no one left to broadcast fresh reports trying not to alarm the old man. Ellis asks him to show where the generators are. The man suspects that the signal might have been the source of some kind of waves that caused people's deaths. Alonso doesn't like this idea, but seeing Ellis's determination, he reluctantly agrees to help. Lex introduces the group to her boss, Dr. Abrams. She admits that she considers him a genius and believes that if anyone can save the world, it's this scientist. Also leads the group as they descend into the basement in search of the generator. He explains how to cut the power, but Ellis notices that the old man is stalling and trying to distract them. Alonzo tells them about supposed safe sleep zone places, untouched by the strange phenomenon, where it's safe to rest. But where these zones are, or if they even exist, he cannot say while the team is distracted. Alonzo dashes out of the control room and locks the doors behind him. He reminds the uninvited guests that he won't abandon his important work or disrupt the broadcast because of their plans. Lex shows her friend images of people who participated in the serum trials, while Jake finds something far more interesting in the clinic: an aquarium. With fish where sharks are swimming, the very same creatures the friends dreamed of becoming at the beginning of the apocalypse. Watching Alonzo keep himself awake by burning cigarettes against his skin, Ellis is finally convinced of the man's madness. He distracts the old man while the others try to sneak into the control room to unlock the doors. Beth's husband reaches Alonzo, but he fails to subdue the old man. The man dies right in front of his wife, and Ellis realizes they're dealing with a very dangerous opponent. Dr. Abrams sends a squad of his men into the city to bring back another batch of survivors. The doctor uses them for trials and doesn't care that some people might not want to participate in such experiments. Meanwhile, on the city outskirts, two men clean their weapons and prepare for another raid. Clay, one of the men, once again refuses to take any stimulants. After the death of his son, he desires only one thing: to punish those responsible. It's this anger that keeps him awake. Jeffrey examines the technical section and finds a way to restore the power and unlock the doors. During this time, Alonzo doesn't stop rambling, trying to explain and justify his behavior, but finally the lights flicker back on. As soon as the doors unlock, Beth storms into the studio and takes out Alonzo live on air. Afterward, Jeffrey shuts off the power again, but this time in a way that disables the satellites transmitting the signal. Screens across the country go dark, and now there's only one thing left to do: test if the plan worked and whether it's finally safe to sleep. Jeffrey recalls the day when he and his friends saw a surviving crow. That bird had been a sign for him, and it was the reason he traveled to Dallas, believing it was a message from above. Now Jeffrey is certain that his time has come. He volunteers to be the one to sleep after the television signal is shut off and tests the theory on himself. Ellis tries to dissuade him, but Jeffrey is resolute. He believes it's his responsibility to test the theory. For the first time in days, he places a soft pillow under his head, lies down, and he closes his eyes a few minutes later. It becomes clear that the plan has failed. They can't restart Jeffy's heart, not even with adrenaline. Just as this happens, Jake remembers Ellis. He shares his thoughts with Ellie, and the girl admits that she believes the pilot is still alive and may have gotten closer to solving the mystery. Meanwhile, the girl sent by Dr. Abrams to find test subjects falls into Clay's hands. The former IT technician doesn't hold back. He forces the information out of her about how he can infiltrate the clinic, unaware of the impending threat. The scientists continue their experiments, and Sam curiously watches Lex at work. Gaining the teenager's trust, Lex asks him to visit Dr. Abrams. Beth breaks down after Jeffrey's death and confesses to her friends that she's ready to lie down and sleep. Meredith tries to stop her, but Ellis realizes that he too is ready to give up. Sam unsuspectingly finds the doctor. He watches Abrams work with curiosity, and when the doctor offers the boy a chance to participate in the experiment, Sam agrees without hesitation. John theorizes that they were on the right track, but shutting down the satellites at the studio isn't enough to complete the job. They need to travel to NASA's space station and disable the satellites there so no signal can reach Earth at all. Ellis shares this plan with Meredith and Beth, but the girls remind their leader that John has been dead for a long time, and this conversation was just a hallucination. The girls plead with Ellis to step back and come with them to the best hotel in Dallas. They can finally rest and sleep, ending their suffering while searching the clinic for Sam. Jake finds a storage room filled with patients' personal belongings. Among the boxes, he notices familiar masks, the same ones worn by all the children in Father Juan's church congregation. But none of those familiar faces have been seen in the clinic at the same time. Ellie also notices something strange. All the images Lex showed her belong to children. Ellie demands an explanation from her friend, but Lex pretends not to understand what she means. Just then, Jake enters the room and explains to Ellie what's happening in the clinic, realizing that Sam is in danger. Jake races to find his little friend. He bursts into the laboratory just as Abrams prepares the experimental vaccine to inject into the boy. The doctor aggressively waves the syringe, refusing to let go of his only test subject. He insists that without this, it's impossible to overcome the catastrophe, and Ellie, as a medic, should understand that. Ellie and Jake manage to wrest Sam away from the doctor upon learning that Lex sent Sam there, Ellie explodes in fury and declares that their friendship is over. The difficult conversation is interrupted by an alarm. Armed men have broken into the building, and everyone is instructed to find shelter, taking advantage of the chaos. Jake leads Ellie and Sam toward the exit. On the way, they encounter an enraged Clay, but upon seeing the boy, the man lets them pass. Clay demands that Dr. Abrams be turned over to him, but the doctor steps out voluntarily. He persuades Clay to lower his weapon, and as soon as the man lets his guard down, injects him with the serum he had prepared for Sam within seconds. Clay's heart stops, and the doctor declares that the substance still doesn't work. Lex tries to stop the escape, but Ellie assures Jake that she can convince her friend to let them go. Ellie delivers a heartfelt speech, but Lex points a gun at her and orders her to come back and return Sam. Jake has to intervene in the friends' argument. He helps Ellie get into the car, and the group drives away. Ellis records a message for Jake and Ellie. And Sam, he confesses that he can't hold on any longer, and tonight he's ready to end his story and finally sleep. The man isn't bluffing. After finishing the recording, he lies down in bed at the finest hotel in Dallas. Next to him, Meredith settles in, and on the neighboring bed lies Beth. Before falling asleep, the friends thank each other for everything they endured together. This is where the first season ends.